Shalom. Hold on.
Shalom. Giving all praises to the Heavenly Father, Yahweh Bahasham, Yahweh Shai Bahasham, Rachahakwarash. Double honors to the apostles, the bishops, and the elders at Great Millstone who rule well. And as always, we give peace and salutations unto the elect. As you can see,
Shalom. Once again, all praises, honor, and glory unto the Most High, Yahweh Basham Yahushai, Basham Rakakodash, double honors to the elders and the apostles of the Great Millstone, and salutations to all you sincere Akim. And this is your brother Abawan, back again with another video through the spirit and power of Yahweh Basham Yahushai, Basham Rakakodash. And this is a response to the elder Yashawamba, Yashawamba's video going into this MAGA pastor here that says that using Old Testament laws to get rid of YNs, basically the same law that starting from the elder apostles on down, we that are in this street have been saying that would be very useful in order to actually get rid of these YNs. Now you have these plantation Christians coming out and saying the exact same thing, right? And that shows you, man, that and starting to you start to suspect these people of actually watching the videos, right? Because now a couple of videos that the apostle Taha has done going into this exact same thing, right? And then you have these MAGA pastors now come out and say the exact same thing. Of course, as is everything with Esau Edom, he's trying to apply these laws in wickedness, saying that, oh, you should go after these so-called criminal, so-called black men, right? Which, of course, as you already know, are not black, right? Are the Israelites, right? The so-called Negroes, Latinos, Native American, Indians, right? But it's using the law and saying that we should apply it towards black, so-called, basically Judah, right? That are basically criminals. Basically, what he's doing here is just what's what I'm looking for, right? He is advocating for the death sentence for you Israelites, you so-called Negroes, Latinos, Native American Indians, right? Has Esau has all this energy for Jake, right? But not for their own people. Okay. What about the Edomites that have been doing these school shootings for the past few weeks? What about the Edomites that have been caught with child exploitative material, that have been caught and arrested on, and being well, you already know how Esau operates, man, and all their other different forms of wicked activity that Esau, Edom, the so-called red man, has been involved in. Obviously, you will not hear any complaint or any criticism or even any demand for public execution of those people, right? Because the public execution, in fact, the execution in this case, and even this statement here is only reserved for you, Jakes, right? Because Esau Edom does not apply his laws equally. Okay, these devils are not equal, and that's I was going to entitle this video basically that hey, the horns on Esau are in full display, right? The horns on Esau are in full display. And when I say horns, I'm referring to the devil horns that we have been warning, starting from the elder apostles on down, of course, have been warning our people that this is what Esau Edom is going to do. And this is the modus operandi of Esau Edom, the so-called red man. So what I'm going to do is I want to get a quick precept, right? That's he spoke as a lamb, right, but had horns as a dragon. Let's get that. So this is the book of Revelation 13, verse 11, and it reads, "And I beheld another beast coming up out of the earth, and he had two horns like a lamb, and he spake as a dragon," right? And of course, this is referring to the draconian policies and legislations that Esau Edom always pushes, right? But of course, as we already know, the scriptures is manifold, right? And this is just me speaking as a man, but I'm going to use it in the context of this statement right here from this plantation Christian pastor, right? Is coming in that spirit of Christianity, which is a very big stumbling block for our people, right? Because you jakes out here still believe in this white JC and still think this white JC died for you in order to save you, rather than what it actually is, which is a propaganda tool for Esau Edom. And it also is a representation of the horn of Esau Edom, which, if you know, horns represent power basically. And what is the power of Esau Edom, right? The deception, his deception, and the sword. Most especially, of course, the sword, but also his deception. And this was the power that was given to him from the Most High Yahweh Hashem Yahushai, right? Power to deceive the nations. And that is the current state that we're in right now. And that's exactly what Esau Edom is doing, right? With this with plantation Christianity, and also with his weapon, which is the sword. And that's why these devils can come out and say, oh, let's start, basically using this biblical law as a cloak, right? As a cloak, in order to start putting more of you Israelites to death, okay? Because that is ultimately what it is. All plantation Christianity is to Esau Edom is manufactured consent. Manufactured consent, in other words, it's a way to deceive people it's a way to deceive people into accepting the wicked and wayward policies of Esau Edom. All they have to say is that it is a that they are speaking truth and they are using scripture and so on and so forth, right? But all plantation Christianity is a part of the deception, right? And the deceptive tools of Esau Edom, right? So this Christian says all this pastor says all this, right? And we're waiting to see how many Christians will actually respond to this, right? So I'm just going to let the video play a little bit so you can hear more of it and you can hear the words straight from the devil's mouth, right? Even though you can basically go and watch the video yourself, right? The channel is Remnant Saved 144, the Elder Yashawamba. Everybody knows the Elder Yashawamba, man. But let's play it.
To the elect. As you can see, this article I have here, all right, which was sent to me by the elder, but not the Zakba, which I just saw. He did a video on it as well.
Yeah, the other man also did a video on it. I'm probably going to I'm going to watch that one, later. But I'm still on this right now. As soon as I saw this video right here from the other Yashawamba, I'm a day late, right? But I still got around to watching it. And the reason why I'm even doing a video on this is because I also did another video going into something similar to this, where you have these Edomites, and basically what these Edomites are doing is that they are beginning to use their old ideologies, right? Their old beliefs, and bringing it back to the forefront, showing you that all this race science, all these pseudo Christian ideologies that they have, right? These false doctrines that they use in order to frame you Israelites, right? You so-called Negroes, Latinos, Native American Indians as people of sin or less than human. They still continue to use it to this day, right? And this video right here, they have not put away their hatred, and it's this video right here, right? And in the video, when I'm going into it, I'm basically going into an Edomite, and he came out and said, oh, that black people, right, bear the mark of Cain, all right, which is how these devils operate, man. So yeah, Esau has not, it's an old Christian ideology that is supposed to have been outdated and already debunked and so on and so forth, right? Black people bear the mark of Cain, right? That's from the Mormonism, right? Black people um black people are the Canaanites, which is why so-called black people, so-called black people are the Canaanites, which is why they get into slavery, which has already been debunked, right? But they will still push these same ideologies. That's why you see Esau come out and start talking about race and IQ, something that has been debunked, right? The black crime statistics, 13% of the population, 50% of the violent crimes already debunked as well. That's something that has already been proven to be false, and it's funny because had one of the first videos actually going into that. When Charlie Kirk mentioned it, right, in his debate on Jubilee, and I had to just go into it a little bit, right? And so on and so forth. All the other, race sciences that Esau Edom came up with. And I even did a video going into that as well, that all these race sciences that Esau came up with, to show that, oh, white people are in superior, right? White supremacy and so on and so forth, right? Right? Things like phrenology, things like brain size, right? And different things like that, and different different pseudoscientific thoughts, theories that Esau used in order to try to prove that they were the superior people, and that we, as the so-called right, the so-called Negroes, the Southern Kingdom, were inferior. And you had already, I even went into different jakes, going back in the 20th century, right? The mid 1900s, where race science was really popping, was really more popular. All right, so race science was where race science was more popular. Guys like Antonio Furman, and how they went into and basically debunked a lot of these ideologies and these theories, right? And I think Antonio Furman wrote a book called "The Equality of the Human Races." Okay, and really, the first problem with the whole race science ideology is the fact that so-called black is not a race, so-called white or Caucasoid or whatever is not a race. Okay, the only races that exist on the earth, because the word race, it goes back to the word ratsa, right, which means line lineage, right? Let me go to that real quick. So I'm just going to quickly current device language. So yeah, let's get that. Race, hold on, race etymology, right? That's what I'm looking for. Right, so race etymology, and the word here, okay, that's not the one I'm looking for. All right, here it is: race, people of common descent, people descended from a common ancestor, class of persons allied with a common ancestry. From the French race, earlier raza, right? So the word race goes back to the word raza, and it's not really showing where it comes from, right? But rasa, race, breed, lineage, family. So basically, your bloodline, right? The people that you go back to. So the only races that exist are the races that exist in the scriptures, right? The original 14 nations, okay? So the idea of a so-called black race is pseudoscientific. The idea of a so-called white race is pseudoscientific, which is why you see the people of this world always saying that race is a social construct, right? Because it is something that was invented by Esau Edom in order to categorize, themselves into a different position and a higher superior chain by calling themselves white, right? And the elder Malcolm has gone into this multiple times, speaking on the invention of the white race, okay? And all this is significant, of course, because it explains and it gives you a background to understand why, going back to this video right here that the elder Yashawamba
Oh,
did,
he did a
right?
video.
Why these Edomites will come out and say, or this Edomite looking individual will come out and say that we need to be able to, or that we need to start um, executing or putting, so-called black men to death based on the Old Testament laws, right? And it will allow you to understand as well what Esau Edom really means when he says that, because what this devil is practicing right here is another form of his deception, double speak, okay, double speak, right? And he's just simply using the Old Testament and this Old Testament law as a cloak in order to justify his wickedness. The reality is that the reason why he wants to put you, Jake, to death is because these devils hate you. These devils hate you, Israelites, man. It's because of the hatred that they have, for you. All right. Esau Edom still hates you, Israelites. Okay. And with this all in perspective, ask yourself, what benefits do you have in being in plantation Christianity? Look at what the Christians are. Look at what your fellow Christian is saying about you, right? And you can go ahead and say that, oh, it's just this Edomite pastor right here, right? You can go ahead and say, oh, it's just this Edomite pastor right here. And you can go ahead and say it's just multiple other groups of Edomites as well, because majority of these white Christian nationalists, you have to remember that exists as well. White Christian nationalism, right? But the majority of these so-called white Christians also feel this way about you Israelites, right? Regardless of whether you are a YN, right? A nigga in the world that's being wicked, right? Being completely, absolutely wicked. Or you're just a regular, quote unquote, law abiding Jake, right? It doesn't matter how you identify, as long as your bloodline, right, your nationality goes back to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and especially if you look like a so-called Negro, then to Esau, hey, you might as well be a YN, man, because these devils, they cannot discern the spirit the same way that we that are in this truth can, right? But let's play the video.
On it as well. So I thought I'd chime in, briefly.
After all, man, Esau is carnal, right? He's only looking upon the outward appearance, and if you look, black, right? If you feel, or rather, I should say, if you pass the paper bag test, right, show that you're darker than a paper, shows that you're darker than a paper bag, or at least look darker than a paper bag, right? That's all the evidence Esau needs to put you to death, really, because that's the big thing with Esau and his execution, or Esau and his justice system. It targets Jake regardless of criminality, which is why Jake overrepresents when it comes to exonerations, right? Freedom from prison for crimes committed, which is why Jake once again is overrepresented in those that are even executed in Babylon the Great currently, and executed especially on false charges. Look at what recently happened with that Jake that was a college ball player, right? That he put himself to death because he was wrongly accused and framed for killing a marine. But Esau won't go into that, right? But they won't go into that, right? But let's keep playing the video.
And we told you your enemy was going to tap back into his pseudoscience, all right, and ultimately push that out to the forefront.
Right, and that's what Esau has really been doing, you know, these past few, this not even past few years, like this year especially, ever since Trump came back into office. All these old race science, these basically all these old race science, all these pseudoscientific theories of race and so on and so forth that that you believe that Esau had discarded, right? These devils have been bringing it back to remembrance, all these ideas of you Jakes being so-called monkeys, right? And that's where the whole IQ thing comes from as well. Even though and I already know that, look, man, that whole evolution thing is a myth, right? But the idea of you Jakes being monkeys, and the idea of you being more violent, right? You being less intelligent, so on, and all the other racial, or I should say, all the other pseudoscientific racial ideologies that Esau pushes. All these things are being brought back to the forefront. All these things are beginning to be used again, right, by Esau to justify oppressing you Jakes, you Israelites, right? So we're going back to that time period, which is why you have the Latino gangs, right? That Esau is always talking about. Oh, these gang of illegals, left and right. But let's keep playing this video.
He's going to start pushing out his statistics, the talking point of,
Because of course, everything I'm saying doesn't just apply to the Southern Kingdom, right? Which is the so-called Negroes, but it also applies to the Northern Kingdom, the so-called Latinos and Native American Indians as well. But let's keep playing the video. The video.
blacks being 13%, of the American population, but committing, the majority of the crimes, which, so-called blacks being 13% is something they've been throwing out since I believe the 40s, or even probably before that. But nonetheless, we told you that under the leadership of Donald Trump, these MAGAs and these Christian nationalists were going to show their true colors.
And we've been warning our people, man, and these are the things that will be happening in these last days, man. This is why we tell you that Esau Edom is the devil. This is why we tell you that the Most High, however, Sham Yahusha is going to destroy Esau. if you like, you dumbass jakes out there that want to be doing want to be forming fake brothers keeper. Oh, how can you say that about Esau? How can you say the white man is going into slavery? How can you say the white man is going into hell? Even though we never said the white man is going into, we never said the white man is going to hell. And we never use the term white because once again, there is no such thing as a white people on the earth. And Esau Edom is not white, he is red. His blood shows forth through his skin, right? But when we say Esau Edom is going into slavery, and then you dumbass jakes now come out and start, caping and trying to plea the cause for this devil. But this is what this devil does to you, and it's what this devil says about you.
Right, and really at the end of the day, these devils know that they have but a short time, and they're using our people as the scapegoats as why their society is going completely left. All right, now
Can. I don't want to play the other video because he was really going into it, right? I don't want to. I don't want to. I don't want us to be here for too long. So what I'm going to do, I'm not going to play the part where he actually goes into listening to or playing the audio of what this Edomite actually said because I don't want to go and take the Edomite out of context or butcher his words. But let's play it.
MAGA 1, which is a judge concerning a rebellious child. Let me see if I can rewind. I'm that. Hold up.
There we go.
There we go. MAGA pastor calls for executing rebellious black men citing Old Testament. By Robert Davis. MAGA pastor Brian Savay called for rebellious black men to be executed according to biblical standards during a recent podcast interview. According to a new report, Right Wing Watch reported Monday that Savay suggested state authorities should kill black men, according to the law prescribed in Deuteronomy 21 of the Christian Bible. The passage says parents should take a rebellious child to the center of town and have the community elders stone them to death for being a glutton and a drunkard. Savay made the comments on a recent episode of the King's Hall podcast, which he co-hosts with Christian nationalist preacher Eric.
And let me just say, right, that's a righteous law in the scriptures, a rebellious child that doesn't listen to their mother or their father. Let me go and get that precept. Let me just go and read it. Let me go and read it. That's Deuteronomy 21, right? And like I was saying, that's a righteous law right there, man. But here is the problem, as the scriptures say, okay? For good, let's get that. I'll start by getting that precept. Actually, later, I'll start by getting that precept. KJV. That should be Ecclesiasticus 39. I've forgotten the exact precept, but let's just read into it. Alright. Here it is. Ecclesiasticus 39. And I'll start from verse 24. As his ways are plain unto the holy, so are they stumbling blocks unto the wicked. For the good are good things created from the beginning, so evil things for sinners, right? And basically, that is a righteous law right there, okay? But Esau, Edom, as usual, these devils do not know righteousness, man. So that's why, you can't trust Esau, whatever, even if he quotes the scriptures, even if he does or claims to do or does anything that is in accordance with the scriptures, you have to understand that these devils are not doing it for the purpose of righteousness or for the purpose of following the scriptures, but they have their own wicked agenda, which is why the scriptures say, never trust thine enemy, right? For like as iron rusteth, so is his wickedness, eventually to come out, eventually to show. So now this is the book of Exodus, Deuteronomy 21. So you can't trust Esau when he starts, quoting the scriptures and talking about we have to enforce this law in the scriptures, right? So this, let's see. Here it is. Deuteronomy 21 verse 18. If a man have a stubborn and rebellious son, which will not obey the voice of his father, or the voice of his mother, and that, when they have chastened him, he will not hearken unto them, then shall his father and his mother lay hold on him, and bring him unto the elders of his city, and unto the gates of his place. And they shall say unto the elders of his city, This our son is stubborn and rebellious, He will not obey our voice. He is a glutton and a drunkard. And they shall say unto the elders of his city, this okay, so like I read that, so like Deuteronomy 21 verse 21, and all the men of his city shall stone him with stones that he die. So shalt thou put evil away from among you, and all Israel shall hear and fear. Right, so the law basically applies to a rebellious child, right? Emphasis on the term child. So some a basically someone that is not yet an adult, okay? Like I said, this is a righteous law right here, man. And even the elder said it as well. If the laws, the statutes, and the commandments, which still apply very much to this day, of the Most High Yahweh Sham Yahushai were actually being followed in America, Babylon the Great. A lot of you people out here would die, but at the end of the day, righteousness would still go, because guess what? A lot of you people out here today are still dying. Well, hey, after the death, basically, which is just simply a correction, right? Righteousness would go, man, and you know, the death toll would basically fall drastically. But let's play the video.
Episode of the King's Hall podcast, which he co-hosts with Christian nationalist preacher Eric Connecticut Survey and Khan both preach at Refuge Church in Utah. According to the report, when we make the... I recently did a video going into the Christian nationalists and their hypocrisy. They act as if they're so, some big bad Christians, but really it's just all rooted in, racial superiority.
Khan.
This whole Jesus Christ character, they that they act as if they push is really rooted in hatred.
Khan.
All right, and the history of it proves it. All right, we can go into various things, centered around these devils' history. All right, and I wonder if Vocab Malone, all right, who's made a living, of stalking Israelites, because that's what it is stalking at this point. He was a creep, all right, and even linking with other so-called black Christians. I wonder if they are. And that's another thing I'm gonna do a video on the hypocrisy of the right wing, all right, black Christian nationalist, all right, the Jake, who's all tapped into pushing Trump, and you got guys like this guy Angry Man, crying for Kirk, and saying, and it comes to a point where you call out Jake's rebellion, you call out Jake's evil and wickedness, but it comes to a point like, okay, so you're not gonna say nothing about these people, the Edomites, so they good to go. They have a squeaky clean image, and nothing needs to be said about their behavior, their history, or their past and present, or they're just a squeaky clean nation of people, right? And that's where you so-called, Anton Daniels, you try to act like you're calling out certain things, the Hodge twins, and a few others. There's a lot of other, Candace Owens, right? And it's coming to a point where they're even having to, call out particular things. And all these years, take that, and then you took a law like Deuteronomy 21, which is a just law that got enacted through Moses. The law was that if you had a rebellious son, you have a child who's coming up into their manhood and they're rebellious, they don't listen. He lists some characteristics, and even though they're disciplined, they will not turn. He says the father is to bring them out into the town square. This is a rebellious son, and then they stone him to death. And it's interesting, we've been on the highways and the byways all these years, and we've been saying that, if the law, statutes, commandments were implemented here in Babylon, okay, a lot of death would take place, all right, and through that death, it will cause the onlookers, right, the younger generation to say, you know what, I don't want to be a thug, I don't want to be a whore.
Because like I said, man, it's something called being scared straight. And even Esau also does this as well, where he takes, these young boys, right, young children to prisons to see how the prisoners live. They tell the prisoners, oh, just go, scare these kids a little bit, rattle them and make them afraid of going to prison, right? Yeah, and that's basically the idea, using, basically that's basically the idea, scare them straight, right? That's why when we read the scripture, it says, well, that all Israel will hear and fear, right? And that's the idea. That's how all these laws work, right? They are created, the punishments are supposed to make you not want to commit those crimes because of the fear of the consequences of committing those crimes, right? But because Esau, Edom is the devil, and because the devil is incapable of being just, that's why you see that in this kingdom, especially in Babylon the Great, there is no fear for you know from anybody of being wicked or doing wickedness or even committing crimes that are against the laws in America by Babylon the Great. Because let's go and get that precept. So this is the book of Habakkuk 1 verse 4. Therefore the law is slacked, and judgment doth never go forth. For the wicked doth compass about the righteous, therefore wrongful judgment proceedeth. Right. And that's the reason why nobody is scared, or nobody is scared to break the laws in America, Babylon, the race, because there is no justice, right? There is no true justice in Babylon. The law is slacked.
Say, you know what? I don't want to be a thug. I don't want to be a whore. I don't want to be a pimp. When the scorner is punished, the simple.
Can and that's basically. I guess I couldn't get the full audio, but no, yeah, I can get the idea, right? So I'm just going to end the video right here. So with that, once again, all praises, honor, and glory unto the Most High Yahweh Basham Yahweh Basham Raka Kwadash Wa Abad Babal, and through the Spirit of your Kiam and you are edified. Shalom.